The reason why America made these internment camps was because 2 months ago, um, on that time, Pearl Harbor happened, and America questioned their security, and they made all Japanese Americans go to internment camps because the Americans thought that they were spies. Um, Japanese relocation states that the attack on Pearl Harbor also launched a rash fear about national security, especially on the West Coast in February 1942. Just 2 months after Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt, as Commander in Chief, issued Executive Order 9066, which had the effect of relocating all persons of Japanese ancestry, both citizens and aliens, inland, outside of the Pacific Military Zone. The objectives of the order were to prevent undercover work and to protect persons of Japanese descent from harm at the hands of Americans who had strong anti-Japanese attitudes. This shows how the Americans were scared and worried for the Japanese Americans because they thought that they would get hurt, so they put them in the internment camps to protect them, and they also put them in because they thought that some of them were spies from Japan. And
What were the Japanese internment camps? Japanese internment camps were a prison-like place where people of the Japanese race were placed. These camps were established during World War II by President Franklin Roosevelt during his Executive Order 9066. From 1942 to 1945, the U.S. government placed these people of Japanese descendants into isolated camps. As a result of Pearl Harbor and the beginning of war, the Japanese internment camps are now one of the largest violations of American civil rights in the 20th century. Internment camps were specialized prisons. These people were forced to move into an area that was surrounded by barbed wire. They were trapped and not allowed to leave. The camps were made because people were afraid that the Japanese Americans would ally with the United States during the Pearl Harbor attack. The goal was to take all people of Japanese descent into custody, surround them with troops, prevent them from buying land, and return them to their homes at the close of war. President Roosevelt called these the 10 faculties, concentration camps. Many Japanese Americans died in these camps due to the limited medical care and mental stresses they encountered. Several were killed by military guards and allegedly resisted for orders and demands.
How can teaching about the internment camps prevent similar mistakes in the future? Since this tragedy has occurred, it's been an embarrassment to the United States as a whole, and therefore has been covered up. While everyone wants to hide their mistakes, most of the time the best thing to do is to own up, apologize, and learn from them. America did not see fit to apologize for over 43 years. Only then did they try to compensate for the dehumanizing acts performed in these horrific places. They offered $20,000 to surviving victims. However, due to how long delayed this apology was, and the 50% death rate to begin with inside the camps, not many were still alive to collect the money. All of this only deepens the hole that America dug itself. So the only way to use this Holocaust is to learn from it, and start to respect others for who they are and what they believe. Almost all of history's mass murders have been prejudiced and targeted towards a certain race or culture, and if humans took more notes on why these tragedies occurred, we could help stop them from even starting. But all of this begins with the education.
What happened to the Japanese Americans after the last internment camp was closed? According to research starters, the last American internment camp was closed in March 1946, almost a year after World War II ended. Another quote from the research starters says, in a tragic footnote, more than 5,000 Japanese Americans renounced their citizenship under a 1944 law. Almost all of the renunciations occurred at Tule Lake Camp and apparently resulted from misinformation and fear that families would be separated after the war. The U.S. government made them renounce their citizenship. Many Japanese Americans left the West Coast, and about 1,000 people were expirated or deported back to Japan, where they had no house, no job, and in most cases, no family. Therefore, when the survivors of the camps were released, they really did not have anywhere to go. It wasn't until 1948 that Congress passed the Evacuation Claims Act that the Japanese Americans got their American homes back, despite most of them being in Japan due to deportation. After all the crimes placed upon these people, many of them clearly wanted nothing to do with the American people or government.